The Keth'var Empire thought the ancient quarantine around Earth was just paranoid fear from a long-dead civilization until they tried to enslave humanity and discovered that some prisons aren't meant to keep things out, but to keep something far more terrifying locked inside. Fleet Commander Zyx'thal of the Keth'var Dominion floated in his biofluid command chamber, studying the tactical displays with growing excitement. After 3 cycles of deep space conquest, his harvest fleet had finally discovered something unexpected: a quarantined world still teeming with viable slave stock. "Commander," hissed his tactical officer Vel'nath, her serpentine form coiled around her station. "The barrier systems around this world are ancient, at least 12,000 rotations old. The technology signatures match the extinct Vaelthic Confederacy. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." Zyx'thal's 4 eyes rotated independently, focusing on the Vaelthic 4 eyes rotated independently. Energy readings. The planet labeled as Sol 3 in the ancient databases was surrounded by a massive containment field that stretched beyond its single moon. Warning beacons in 17 dead languages broadcasted the same message on repeat: "Quarantine zone, extreme biohazard, do not approach." "Vaelthic paranoia," Zyx'thal chittered dismissively. "They quarantined entire systems because they feared a simple viral outbreak. Look at the scans, Vel'nath. This world is perfect, abundant water, optimal atmospheric composition, and over 7 billion sentient beings, all apparently primitive." Through the massive viewing portal, the blue-green world hung like a jewel against the black. Its surface showed no signs of advanced planetary defenses, no orbital weapons platforms, no void-capable military vessels. Just a single space station and a few primitive satellites. "Sir," reported Clivex from the intelligence station, his carapace clicking nervously. "The inhabitants appear to be a singular species calling themselves humans. Carbon-based bipeds. Recently achieved nuclear fusion. Barely managed to establish small colonies on their nearest planetary body. Their most advanced vessels can't even achieve meaningful faster-than-light travel." Zyx'thal's mandibles clacked in amusement. The Keth'var Empire had harvested 100 worlds, and their slave processing techniques were refined to perfection. They could subdue and process an entire planet's population within a solar rotation. "What resistance capabilities do they possess?" he asked. "Minimal," Clivex replied, checking his readings. "Chemical projectile weapons, primitive explosive devices, basic electromagnetic warfare. Their largest military formations number only in the thousands. They appear to be divided into competing territorial factions that regularly engage in localized conflicts." "Perfect," Zyx'thal rumbled, his voice resonating through the biofluid. "A fractured primitive species. They won't even be able to coordinate a planetary response." The Keth'var harvest fleet consisted of 12 bioships, each over 2 kilometers in length and capable of processing millions of life forms. Their neural suppression technology could pacify entire continental populations simultaneously, while their conversion forges could transform any organic matter into the specialized slave forms the Empire required. "Begin penetration of the quarantine field," Zyx'thal commanded. "Use the resonance disruptors to create a localized breach. We'll establish a foothold on the largest landmass and begin demonstration protocols." "Sir," Vel'nath interjected carefully, "perhaps we should investigate why the Vaelthic Confederacy established such an extensive quarantine. Their records indicated this was one of their most severe containment protocols." Zyx'thal's bioluminescent patches flared with irritation. "Science officer, the Vaelthic Confederacy was destroyed 8,000 rotations ago, apparently by their own excessive caution and failure to expand aggressively. We are the Keth'var Dominion. We have perfected the art of harvesting sentient life. No primitive world poses any threat to our capabilities. The quarantine field flickered and parted as their disruptors found the correct frequency. Alarms wailed briefly from the ancient warning systems, then fell silent as the power sources finally died after millennia of operation. Quarantine breach. Successful, reported Keth'var. No hostile response detected from the planet's surface. No energy signatures indicating advanced defensive systems activating. As expected, Zyx'thal said. A planet of primitives hiding behind the technological ghosts of a dead empire. Signal the fleet will begin with the standard intimidation protocols. Show these humans the power of the Keth'var Dominion and let them understand their new place in the galactic order. His bioship, the Devourer of Suns, led the fleet toward the small blue world. In his experience, primitive species always responded the same way. First denial, then desperate resistance, finally resigned acceptance of their fate. The humans would be no different. Open communication channels to the planetary surface, he commanded. Let's introduce ourselves to our new slaves. As the massive bioships descended through Earth's atmosphere, casting shadows over major population centers, Zyx'thal felt the familiar thrill of a successful hunt. The quarantine had been nothing more than ancient paranoia, and soon this world's billions would join the countless other species serving the Empire. He had no idea that he had just made the greatest mistake in Keth'var history. What Zyx'thal couldn't have known was that the quarantine hadn't been established to protect the galaxy from a viral outbreak or primitive aggression. It had been created to contain something far more dangerous than any weapon or disease, something that had once brought the mighty Vaelthic Confederacy to its knees, and something that had been patiently waiting 12,000 years for another opportunity to remind the galaxy why Earth had been sealed away. The harvest was about to begin. But the Keth'var were about to discover that sometimes the prey is more dangerous than the predator. The 12 bioships of the Keth'var harvest fleet positioned themselves over Earth's major population centers, their massive shadows darkening entire cities. From his command chamber aboard the Devourer of Suns, Fleet Commander Zyx'thal surveyed the primitive world with satisfaction. All vessels report ready status, announced Vel'nath, her serpentine form undulating with anticipation. Neural suppression. Arrays are charged, conversion forges are online, and processing bays have been sterilized for incoming cargo. Zyx'thal's bioluminescent patches pulsed with pleasure. Excellent. Begin with the standard demonstration protocol. We'll show these humans exactly what the Keth'var Dominion is capable of. The communication arrays crackled to life, broadcasting simultaneously to every electronic device on the planet's surface. Zyx'thal's Zafigo, the towering four-eyed creature, surrounded by writhing biomechanical tentacles, appeared on every screen worldwide. Primitive inhabitants of this world. His voice boomed across the planet, translated instantly into hundreds of human languages. I am Fleet Commander Zyx'thal of the Keth'var Dominion. Your planet has been selected for harvest. You will witness the power of our empire, understand your insignificance, and accept your new purpose as servants to a superior species. Through his sensors, Zyx'thal could detect the panic spreading across the planet's surface. Cities erupted into chaos. Governments frantically tried to establish communication protocols, and military forces scrambled to respond to the massive alien presence. Keth'var, what's the status of their military response? Zyx'thal asked. Pathetic, the intelligence officer replied, his carapace clicking in amusement. They're launching primitive aircraft with chemical projectile weapons. Some are attempting to fire ballistic missiles at our vessels. The largest warships they possess are water surface vessels armed with explosive shells. Zyx'thal chittered in derision. Show them why their resistance is futile. Begin the Sydney demonstration. The bioship hovering over Australia's largest city began to descend, its living hull pulsing with malevolent energy. From its ventral surface, Thousands of neural suppression tendrils emerged, living cables that could interface directly with organic nervous systems. Citizens of Sydney, Zyx'thal announced through the global communication network, observe the futility of resistance. The neural suppression field activated, and 5 million humans simply stopped what they were doing, instantly. Drivers halted. Mid-traffic, children froze while playing. Government officials paused mid-sentence during emergency meetings. The entire city became a tableau of motionless figures, their minds temporarily severed from their bodies. Neural suppression field operating at minimal power, reported the bioship's captain. All human nervous systems in the target zone are now under our control. They remain conscious but cannot control their motor functions. Zyx'thal's mandibles clacked with satisfaction. Excellent. Release them and proceed to the conversion demonstration. The field deactivated, and Sydney's population snapped back to awareness, many collapsing in terror as they realized they had been completely helpless. But the demonstration was far from over. Now witness the power of our conversion technology. Zyx'thal announced globally. The bioship's conversion beam activated, targeting the city's harbor. The molecular disruptors struck the water, and what happened next defied human understanding of physics. The harbor didn't evaporate or boil instead. The water began to reshape itself into complex organic structures. Within minutes, the entire harbor had been transformed into a living biodock, complete with processing stations and organic storage pods. This is what we do to matter we find useful, Zyx'thal explained to the horrified world. We reshape it to serve our purposes. Your cities, your resources, your very planet can be converted into whatever form we require. Through the global communication network, he could hear the desperate chatter of human leaders trying to coordinate some kind of response. Nuclear weapons were being prepared, space-based assets were being positioned, and frantic diplomatic messages were being broadcast toward the fleet. And now, Zyx'thal continued, observe what happens to those who resist. The bioship above Sydney fired a single pulse toward a nearby mountain. The peak simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, not vaporized, but completely removed from reality, as if it had never been there. In its place was a perfectly spherical void that hurt to look at directly. This is existence erasure, Zyx'thal explained calmly. We don't merely kill our enemies, we remove them from the timeline itself. They never existed, never had families, never made any impact on history. Perfect deletion. Across the planet, human governments were beginning to send surrender signals. Military forces were standing down, world leaders were requesting negotiation terms, and civilian populations were fleeing major cities in panic. You see, Zyx'thal continued his broadcast, resistance is not merely futile, it is impossible. The Keth'var Dominion has perfected the art of harvesting sentient species. We have processed over 90 worlds, enslaved billions of beings, and never encountered a force capable of stopping us. He paused, letting the weight of despair settle over the planet. However, we are not without mercy. Submit willingly, and we will ensure your transition to useful servitude is painless. Your strongest will become warrior slaves, your most intelligent will serve as computational units, and your most aesthetically pleasing will provide entertainment for our nobles. This is a generous offer, one that 90 other species accepted after witnessing similar demonstrations. The global communication networks were filled with human voices, some defiant, some pleading, some resigned. It was always the same pattern. Initial shock, desperate resistance attempts, then gradual acceptance of reality. You have one rotation of your planet to provide your formal surrender, Zyx'thal announced. Use this time wisely. Consider what you have witnessed, understand what resistance will bring, and make the logical choice. As he cut the communication, Zyx'thal felt the familiar satisfaction of a successful intimidation protocol. The humans had seen neural suppression, molecular conversion, and existence erasure, the three fundamental tools of Keth'var dominance. No species had ever witnessed these demonstrations and continued resistance. "Sir," reported Vel'nath, "we're receiving thousands of communications from the planet's surface. Most appear to be surrender negotiations." "As expected," Zyx'thal replied. "Primitive species always follow the same pattern. By tomorrow, we'll begin the sorting process. This harvest should be completed within a few cycles." What Zyx'thal didn't realize was that among the thousands of communications his fleet was receiving, some contained a very different message than surrender. Hidden within diplomatic frequencies and emergency broadcasts, a simple phrase was being transmitted over and over again, not to the Keth'var fleet, but to something else entirely, something that had been waiting 12,000 years for exactly. "This moment, the seal has been broken," the message repeated. "The harvest has begun. Initiate Protocol Omega." 24 hours after the demonstration, Fleet Commander Zyx'thal received what appeared to be humanity's unconditional surrender. The message came through official diplomatic channels, transmitted simultaneously from every major government on Earth. "To the Keth'var Dominion," the message began, delivered by a middle-aged human female identifying herself as UN Secretary General Maria Santos. "After witnessing your capabilities, the unified governments of Earth formally surrender. We accept our role as servants to your empire and request guidance on how to proceed with the transition." Zyx'thal's bioluminescent patches flickered with satisfaction. "Excellent response time," he noted to his crew. "Most species take at least 3 rotations to organize a planetary surrender. These humans are surprisingly efficient." "Sir," reported Klovex from his intelligence station, "we're receiving detailed population manifests from all major population centers. They're providing complete demographic data: age, health status, educational background, physical capabilities. They're even including psychological profiles and skill assessments. Vel'nath's serpentine form coiled with interest. They're providing more comprehensive data than we usually receive. Most species try to hide their most valuable individuals during the surrender process. Perhaps these humans are more intelligent than they initially appeared," Zyx'thal mused. "They understand that cooperation makes the processing more efficient for everyone involved." The surrender package was remarkably thorough. Humanity had organized their entire population into convenient categories: 2.3 billion individuals suitable for physical labor, 800 million with technical expertise, 450 million with artistic and entertainment value, and detailed medical records for all 7.8 billion inhabitants. "They've even included transportation logistics," reported another officer. "They're offering to use their own infrastructure to move populations to designated collection points. They want to minimize disruption to what they call processing efficiency." Zyx'thal felt an unusual twinge of, was it disappointment? How remarkably anticlimactic. "I was expecting at least some token resistance, perhaps a few futile military strikes. Instead, they're treating this like a business transaction." "Sir," Klovex interjected, "we're receiving a request for a face-to-face meeting. The humans want to discuss transition protocols with our leadership. They're suggesting we meet at a location they call the United Nations headquarters." "A meeting?" Vel'nath's eyes narrowed. This could be an attempt at some kind of primitive ambush. Zyx'thal considered this unlikely. "We scanned their weapons capabilities. Nothing they possess could threaten even a single biosuit, let alone a command-class officer. Still, their eagerness to cooperate is unusual." Through the communication array, Secretary General Santos appeared again on the main display. "Commander Zyx'thal, we've prepared comprehensive documentation for the transition process. However, there are some technical details we'd like to discuss to ensure optimal efficiency. We understand that your empire values productivity above all else." "Technical details?" Zyx'thal inquired. "Yes, Commander. We've studied your demonstration carefully, and we believe we can optimize the harvesting process significantly. Our analysis suggests several modifications to your current approach that could increase processing speed by approximately 300% while reducing resource expenditure. The bridge fell silent. No species had ever offered to improve Keth'var harvesting techniques. Most were too terrified or too ignorant to understand the complexity of the process. You claim you can improve our methods? Zyx'thal asked, intrigued despite himself. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. We believe so, Commander. Humans have always been exceptional at optimization and efficiency improvements. It's one of our defining characteristics as a species. We'd like to demonstrate some preliminary concepts if you're interested. Klevex looked up from his console. Sir, they're transmitting detailed engineering schematics. These appear to be modifications to our neural suppression field generators. Let me see those, Zyx'thal commanded. The schematics appeared on his display, and even with his limited technical knowledge, he could see they were surprisingly sophisticated. The humans had somehow analyzed his neural suppression technology from a single demonstration and identified 3 significant efficiency improvements. How did they develop these modifications so quickly? Vel'nath asked. Secretary General Santos smiled on the communication screen. Commander, we had our best minds working on this problem for the full 24 hours. When humanity focuses on a challenge, we can be quite resourceful. Their modifications appear to be functionally sound, reported the bioship's technical officer. If implemented, they would indeed increase field efficiency while reducing power consumption. Zyx'thal felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries of harvesting. Curiosity. What other improvements are you proposing? Well, Santos continued, we've also identified some inefficiencies in your molecular conversion process. The energy expenditure for converting inorganic matter seems unnecessarily high. We believe we can reduce it by approximately 40% with some simple adjustments to your beam focal arrays. More schematics appeared, each one showing detailed technical knowledge that should have been impossible for a species that had witnessed the technology only once. And, Santos added almost casually, we noticed your existence erasure demonstration had some interesting quantum resonance patterns. We have some thoughts on how to amplify those effects, if you're interested. The bridge was now completely silent. The humans were discussing modifications to existence erasure technology, the most complex and dangerous capability in the Keth'var arsenal, as if they were suggesting improvements to a simple machine. How? Zyx'thal asked slowly. Do you know anything about quantum resonance patterns? Santos looked slightly embarrassed. Oh well, we've been working with similar principles for quite some time. Nothing as advanced as your technology, of course. But we understand the basic concepts. We thought you might appreciate some collaborative input. Collaborative input, Zyx'thal repeated. Yes, Commander. We realize we're just a primitive species, but sometimes a fresh perspective can identify improvements that aren't obvious to experts. We're hoping our cooperation in optimizing the harvest process might earn us slightly better treatment in our new roles. It was a perfectly reasonable explanation. Conquered species often tried to make themselves more valuable through cooperation. But something about this situation felt wrong to Zyx'thal. The humans were too calm, too organized, too helpful. Sir, Klevex reported quietly, I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface. Very faint, but they're appearing all across the globe. What kind of energy signatures? Unknown configuration. They're operating on frequencies I've never encountered before. Santos continued talking on the communication screen, discussing harvesting logistics with the enthusiasm of a merchant negotiating a profitable trade deal. We've also prepared detailed cultural information about human society to help your empire understand how to best utilize our species' unique capabilities. But Zyx'thal was no longer listening. Something was deeply wrong here. In 3 centuries of harvesting, no species had ever responded this way. The humans weren't acting like victims, they were acting like partners, and that energy signature Klavex had detected was growing stronger. Secretary General Santos, Zyx'thal interrupted, your species' cooperation is unprecedented. However, I'm curious about something. The quarantine around your world was established by the Vaelthic Confederacy over 12,000 years ago. Do your people have any historical records about why that quarantine was put in place? For just a moment less than a second, Santos's friendly expression flickered. Something darker passed across her features, something that made Zyx'thal bioluminescent patches dim instinctively. Then the smile returned. Oh, that old thing. We've always assumed it was just ancient paranoia. You know how older civilizations could be overly cautious about biological contamination and such. We never paid much attention to it. But Zyx'thal had seen that flicker, and he was beginning to realize that humanity's remarkably efficient surrender might not be what it appeared to be. The meeting at the United Nations headquarters proceeded unlike any surrender negotiation in Keth'var history. Fleet Commander Zyx'thal had brought a full diplomatic biosuit, a 12-foot-tall living armor that could withstand planetary-scale attacks, but the humans seemed more interested in offering him coffee than mounting any kind of resistance. We've prepared a comprehensive presentation, Secretary General Santos explained as she led him into a large conference room. We want to demonstrate humanity's value as productive members of your empire. The room was filled with humans of various ages and ethnicities, all sitting calmly around a massive table. What struck Zyx'thal as odd was their complete lack of fear. These beings had witnessed neural suppression, molecular conversion, and existence erasure just 2 days ago. They should be cowering in terror, not offering refreshments. First, Santos continued, activating a holographic display. Let's discuss the technical improvements we mentioned. The hologram showed a detailed schematic of a Keth'var bioship, but with modifications so extensive that Zyx'thal barely recognized. Every system had been redesigned, optimized, and enhanced. How did you obtain detailed schematics of our vessels? Zyx'thal demanded. An elderly human named Dr. Chun spoke up. Oh, we scanned your ships when you arrived. Standard procedure. We always analyze new technology that enters our system. You scanned our ships? Zyx'thal's voice rose an octave. Our biohulls are specifically designed to resist all known scanning methods. Dr. Chun looked apologetic. Well, yes, they do. Resist conventional scanning. But we don't use conventional methods. Here, let me show you. The hologram changed to show a real-time, 3-dimensional view of the entire Keth'var fleet. Not just external hull configurations, but internal systems, crew movements, even the bioluminescent patterns of individual officers. This is our passive observation system, Dr. Chun explained casually. We've been using it to monitor the structural integrity of your vessels. Fascinating biotechnology, by the way. Though there are some efficiency improvements we could suggest. Zyx'thal stared at the display in shock. The level of detail was impossible. These scans penetrated deeper into Keth'var technology than their own internal sensors could achieve. That's not possible, he stammered. No species has ever been able to penetrate our biohulls. Oh, it's quite simple really, said another human, a young woman identified as Dr. Patel. We just reconfigured some of our standard planetary defense sensors. Nothing fancy. Planetary defense sensors? Zyx'thal felt his bioluminescent patches flickering erratically. Well, yes, Santos interjected. We maintain a comprehensive monitoring system for our solar system. Here, let me show you the full scope. The hologram expanded to show the entire solar system, and Zyx'thal's world tilted. The display revealed tens of thousands of sensor stations, monitoring platforms, and what could only be described as weapons emplacements scattered throughout the system. "This has been here the entire time?" he whispered. "Of course," Dr. Chen replied. "How else would we keep track of what's happening in our neighborhood? Though we did have to recalibrate everything when you arrived. Your bioships operate on some unusual frequencies." Santos touched a control, and the display zoomed in on one of the outer sensor platforms. It was massive, easily the size of a Keth'var bioship, and covered in technology that Zyx'thal couldn't begin to identify. "This is monitoring station Omega-7, she explained. "It's one of our older platforms, but it's been tracking your fleet since you breached the quarantine barrier. Along with the other 47,000 platforms in our network." 47,000? Zyx'thal's voice was barely audible. "Give or take a few hundred," Dr. Patel added. "We're always upgrading and expanding the network. It's a bit of a hobby for us." Zyx'thal tried to process this information. The humans had revealed a surveillance network that dwarfed anything the Keth'var Empire had ever constructed. And they were calling it a hobby. "Now," Santos continued, "let's discuss the harvesting schedule you proposed." She activated another display showing Earth's population centers, but instead of the chaotic, primitive settlements Zyx'thal expected, he saw something that made his biosuit's life support systems stutter. Every major city was connected by vast underground networks, massive installations that appeared to be manufacturing centers of the continents. Transportation systems moved goods and people at speeds that approached light speed. And beneath it all, an energy distribution grid that was producing power on a scale that rivaled a small star. "As you can see," Santos explained, "our global infrastructure is quite extensive. We've been building it up for the past few thousand years." "Few thousand years?" Zyx'thal managed to croak. "Well, the current configuration has been in place for about 4 millennia, Dr. Chen noted. "Though we've been making constant improvements. The transportation grid alone processes about 12 billion passenger trips per day." 12 billion? But your population is only 7.8 billion. "Oh, that's just the Earth-based population," Dr. Patel said cheerfully. "The full human population is considerably larger." The hologram shifted to show the solar system again, and Zyx'thal saw something that broke his understanding of reality. Mars wasn't a barren red planet. It was covered in vast cities and industrial complexes. The asteroid belt was filled with mining stations and manufacturing platforms. Even the moons of Jupiter showed signs of massive construction projects. "How many humans are there?" he whispered. "Current census puts us at about 47 billion, Santos replied. "Though that number changes daily, we're quite good at expansion." Zyx'thal felt his biosuit stabilizers engaging as his legs went weak. 47 billion? But our scans showed only Earth was inhabited. "Well, yes," Dr. Chen said apologetically. "We activated our concealment protocols when you arrived. We didn't want to seem overwhelming. We thought starting with just Earth would be less intimidating." "Concealment protocols?" Dr. Patel touched a control, and suddenly the holographic display showed the true scope of human civilization. Mars blazed with the light of 1,000 cities. The asteroid belt hummed with industrial activity. Europa, Titan, and a dozen other moons showed vast colonies connected by transportation networks that spanned the entire solar system. "This is what our system normally looks like," Santos explained. "But we thought it might be startling for first contact. So we hid most of it behind perception filters." "Perception filters," Zyx'thal repeated numbly. "Simple light-bending technology," Dr. Chen said. "We learned it from—" "Well, never mind where we learned it. The point is, we wanted you to feel comfortable." During the initial contact phase, Zyx'thal's communication system crackled to life, Vel'nath's panicked voice came through. Commander, the scans, the system is full of massive installations. Where did they all come from? They were always there, Zyx'thal replied weakly. They were just hidden. But Commander, if this is their true capability, why are they surrendering? Santos seemed to overhear the communication. Oh, we're not surrendering, she said pleasantly. We're negotiating. Negotiating? Well, yes. You came here to harvest our population for slaves, which is obviously unacceptable. But you also demonstrated some interesting technology that we'd like to learn more about. So we thought we'd work out a mutually beneficial arrangement. Mutually beneficial? Dr. Patel leaned forward. Commander, you have to understand, we've been isolated here for 12,000 years. We're eager to reconnect with galactic civilization. Your arrival is the first contact we've had with the outside galaxy since the quarantine was established, but you're just a primitive species. Zyx'thal protested desperately. Santos's smile became slightly less warm. Commander, we've had 12 millennia to develop our capabilities. Did you really think we spent that time standing still? The conference room fell silent, except for the hum of the holographic displays, showing the true scope of human civilization, a vast, technologically advanced empire that had been hiding in plain sight. And Zyx'thal was beginning to realize that the Keth'var Empire had made a terrible mistake. Now, Santos continued, her voice taking on a subtle edge, shall we discuss why the quarantine was really established? I think it's time you understood what you've actually stumbled into. Secretary General Santos to control on the conference table, and the holographic display shifted to show an image that made Fleet Commander Zyx'thal's bioluminescent patches go completely dark. It was a star map of the galaxy, but not as he knew it. This, Santos said quietly, is what the galaxy looked like 12,000 years ago. The map showed hundreds of thriving civilizations, vast trade networks, and peaceful alliances spanning thousands of star systems. At the center of it all was a magnificent empire labeled Vaelthic Confederacy, the same name from the quarantine warnings. The Vaelthic Confederacy was the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known, Dr. Chun explained. They had achieved perfect harmony between technology and nature, conquered death itself, and created a utopian society that lasted for over 50,000 years. What happened to them? Zyx'thal asked, though part of him already feared the answer. Santos smiled, but there was no warmth in it anymore. They met us. The holographic display changed to show Earth during its early spacefaring period. But this wasn't the primitive world Zyx'thal had expected. Even 12,000 years ago, human civilization had been sophisticated beyond belief. You see, Commander, Dr. Patel continued, humanity has a very unique trait among galactic species. We're what you might call adaptive assimilators. We don't just learn from other cultures, we absorb them, improve upon them, and make them our own. When the Vaelthic Confederacy first encountered us, Santos added, they thought we were just another promising young species. They shared their technology with us, invited us into their alliance, treated us as partners. The hologram showed peaceful first contact between humans and elegant, crystalline beings that could only be the Vaelthic. Trade ships, cultural exchanges, joint scientific projects. It started innocently enough, Dr. Chun said. We learned their language, studied their science, adopted their customs. They were pleased with our rapid progress. They thought they had found the perfect junior partners. But then we started improving their technology, Dr. Patel continued. Small enhancements at first. More efficient power systems, better communication networks, optimized manufacturing processes. The Vaelthic were impressed by our innovations. The holographic timeline advanced, showing human settlements spreading throughout Vaelthic space. But something was wrong with the progression. The human territories weren't just growing, they were transforming everything around them. Within 1,000 years, Santos said, We had improved nearly every aspect of Vaelthic civilization. Their technology, their government, their economy, even their biology. We were just trying to help, you understand? Helping them? Zyx'thal whispered. Oh yes, Dr. Chun replied. We eliminated inefficiencies in their democratic processes by streamlining decision-making protocols. We optimized their genetic structure to remove hereditary diseases and enhance their natural abilities. We upgraded their planetary ecosystems to maximize productivity. The hologram showed the transformation in horrifying detail. Vaelthic worlds were being systematically converted, their crystalline cities replaced with more efficient human designs. Their very biology altered to match human improvements. The Vaelthic began to realize what was happening, Dr. Patel explained. But by then, it was too late. We had become so integrated into their society that they couldn't remove us without destroying themselves. They tried to resist, Santos added. There was a war of sorts. The Vaelthic Confederacy's final desperate attempt to stop what they called the optimization plague. The hologram showed vast fleets of crystalline ships engaging human forces. But the battle scenes were all wrong. The humans weren't overwhelming the Vaelthic with superior numbers or firepower. They were converting enemy ships mid-battle, turning Vaelthic technology against itself. The war lasted 300 years. Dr. Chun said sadly, but every Vaelthic weapon we captured became a better human weapon. Every defensive system they developed became an improved human defensive system. Every strategic innovation they created was immediately surpassed by our enhanced version. By the end, Dr. Patel continued, the Vaelthic Confederacy had been completely assimilated. Their technology, their culture, their very existence had been optimized into human civilization. They ceased to exist as a separate species. Zyx'thal stared at the hologram in horror. You destroyed them? Destroyed? Santos looked genuinely confused. Commander, we saved them. Every single Vaelthic citizen was given enhanced biology, extended lifespans, improved cognitive abilities, and integration into a more efficient social structure. We eliminated their suffering, their conflicts, their limitations. But they weren't Vaelthic anymore, Zyx'thal protested. Exactly, Dr. Chun beamed. They became something better. They became optimized. The holographic display shifted to show the aftermath. Where once there had been hundreds of diverse civilizations, now there was only one, an impossibly vast human empire spanning half the galaxy. The surviving species, Dr. Patel explained, realized they had a problem. Humanity wasn't evil. We genuinely believed we were helping everyone we encountered. But we were unstoppable. Every civilization we helped ceased to exist as anything other than an optimized component of human society. So they quarantined you, Zyx'thal said numbly. The Zephyrian Coalition, the Mordic Empire, the Hive Consciousness, every remaining major power in the galaxy worked together to build the quarantine, Santos confirmed. It was the most massive undertaking in galactic history. They sealed us away in our original star system and hoped we would remain there. For 12,000 years, Dr. Chun added, we respected that quarantine. We understood that our presence made other species uncomfortable. So we focused on internal development, technological advancement, and what we call optimization research. Optimization research? Zyx'thal felt his biosuit's life support systems working overtime. Dr. Patel's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. Oh yes, we spent 12 millennia perfecting our assimilation techniques. We can now optimize an entire civilization in less than 50 years while preserving 78% of their original cultural identity. It's a vast improvement over our earlier methods. The Vaelthic's mistake, Santos added, was thinking they could quarantine us indefinitely. But quarantines are meant to contain diseases, and we're not a disease, Commander. We're an evolutionary inevitability. The hologram changed to show real-time images of Keth'var space. But these weren't the images from their own fleet sensors. These were detailed surveillance recordings showing every Keth'var world, every bioship, every harvesting operation across their entire empire. "We've been watching you for quite some time," Dr. Chun explained. "The Keth'var Empire's expansion pattern caught our attention about 200 years ago. You're quite efficient at subjugating primitive species. But you have some significant optimization opportunities," Dr. Patel added helpfully. "Your biotechnology is impressive, but it's limited by organic constraints. Your social structure creates unnecessary hierarchies that reduce efficiency. And your approach to conquered species wastes enormous amounts of productive potential." Santos leaned forward. "We could help you with all of that. Help us?" Zyx'thal's voice was barely a whisper. "Of course. Commander, you've demonstrated some fascinating capabilities. Neural suppression, molecular conversion, existence erasure. These are all technologies we could optimize significantly. Imagine existence erasure that works backwards through time, or neural suppression that enhances cognitive function while maintaining control. The possibilities are endless." Through his communication system, Zyx'thal could hear panic spreading through his fleet. His crew had been monitoring the conversation, and they were beginning to understand the true scope of what they had encountered. "Commander," Vel'nath's terrified voice crackled through, "long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures throughout human space. Whatever they're hiding, it's beyond our ability to comprehend. How many worlds do you control now?" Zyx'thal asked weakly. "Control is such a limiting term," Santos replied. "We prefer optimize, and the answer is approximately 47,000 star systems within our original quarantine zone. We've been quite productive during our isolation." 47,000 systems? Zyx'thal's biosuit began emergency stabilization procedures as his vital signs spiked. "Give or take a few hundred," Dr. Chun said modestly. "We've been building up our infrastructure in preparation for eventual recontact with galactic civilization. And now that contact has arrived," Dr. Patel added cheerfully, "we're ready to resume our mission of galactic optimization." Santos stood up, and suddenly the cheerful diplomat was gone. In her place stood something far more terrifying, a being with the absolute confidence of someone who had never encountered a problem they couldn't solve. "Fleet Commander Zyx'thal," she said formally, "the Keth'var Empire has two choices. You can accept our offer of optimization and become valuable partners in an improved galactic civilization, or you can resist and will be forced to demonstrate just how much we've learned about efficiency during our 12,000 years of isolation." "The quarantine," Zyx'thal whispered. "It wasn't to protect the galaxy from a virus." "No, Commander," Santos smiled. "It was to protect the galaxy from us, and you just broke it." The silence in the United Nations conference room stretched for what felt like eternity. Fleet Commander Zyx'thal stood motionless in his biosuit. His four eyes focused on the holographic display, showing the true scope of human civilization. Through his communication system, he could hear his fleet in complete chaos officers shouting contradictory orders, bioship systems fluctuating as their organic components reacted to their crew's panic. "Commander," Secretary General Santos said gently, "we understand this is a lot to process. Perhaps you'd like to sit down?" Zyx'thal's legs gave out, and his biosuit's emergency support systems guided him into one of the specially reinforced chairs the humans had thoughtfully provided. "Why?" he finally managed to ask. "Why didn't you simply optimize us when we arrived? You clearly have the capability." Dr. Chung leaned forward with a grandfatherly expression. "Because we've learned from our mistakes with the Vaelthic Commander. Forced optimization creates trauma and resistance. We found that willing participants adapt much more successfully to enhancement protocols. Besides," Dr. Patel added, "your arrival presented us with a unique opportunity. The Keth'var Empire spans 47 star systems and has perfected techniques for managing conquered populations. That's exactly the kind of expertise we need for our return to galactic civilization. Return? Zyx'thal felt his bioluminescent patches flickering weakly. Oh yes, Santos replied. Commander, the quarantine was always going to be temporary. 12,000 years of isolation has allowed us to perfect our optimization techniques, but we've reached the limits of what we can achieve within our confined space. It's time to resume our mission of galactic improvement. Through his communication system, Vel'nath's voice crackled with terror. Commander, we're detecting massive fleet movements throughout the system. Ships are decloaking everywhere. Our sensors count at least 10,000 vessels. Only 10,000? Dr. Chun looked surprised. We must have most of our fleet deployed in other systems. That's just our local defense force. Local defense force, Zyx'thal repeated numbly. Well, we couldn't leave Earth completely unprotected during your visit, Dr. Patel explained reasonably. Though I suppose defense force is a bit of a misnomer. They're actually optimization specialist ships designed to help facilitate smooth cultural transitions. Santos activated the holographic display again, showing Zyx'thal's bioships, surrounded by vessels that dwarfed them completely. But unlike the threatening postures of military fleets, the human ships maintained perfectly non-aggressive formations. Your bioships are quite remarkable, Santos noted. We've been analyzing their design during our conversation. The integration of organic and technological components is ingenious, though we've identified several potential improvements. Improvements? Oh yes. Dr. Patel's enthusiasm was infectious despite the circumstances. We could enhance the bioneural networks to increase processing speed by approximately 400%. The organic hull could be optimized to self-repair at the molecular level, and the crew integration systems could be upgraded to eliminate the need for individual biosuits entirely. But the most exciting possibility, Dr. Chun added, is combining your existence erasure technology with our temporal manipulation systems. We could create selective reality editing, removing specific events from history while preserving beneficial outcomes. Zyx'thal stared at them. You want to improve our weapons? We want to improve everything, Santos corrected gently. Commander, the Keth'var Empire has achieved remarkable things, but you're still operating under significant limitations. Your hierarchical command structure creates inefficiencies. Your biotechnology is constrained by organic evolution. Your approach to conquered species discards enormous amounts of potential. We could help you transcend all of those limitations, Dr. Patel offered. Imagine a Keth'var Empire with perfect efficiency, unlimited technological growth, and the ability to optimize entire civilizations within decades instead of centuries. Through his communication system, Zyx'thal heard another officer reporting. Commander, they're broadcasting welcome messages to our fleet in perfect Keth'var language. They're inviting our crews to tour their vessels and discussing cultural exchange programs. Cultural exchange, Zyx'thal said weakly. We found that mutual learning experiences produce the best optimization outcomes, Santos explained. Your people will share their expertise in biotechnology and population management. Our people will share their knowledge of efficiency optimization and advanced manufacturing. And at the end of this, cultural exchange? Dr. Chun smiled warmly. Commander, that depends entirely on your empire's preferences. Some civilizations choose to maintain their original governmental structures while implementing our technological improvements. Others prefer complete integration into human space for maximum efficiency. Both approaches have their advantages, Dr. Patel added. The crystalline hegemony chose partial optimization and retained their monarchy, though with enhanced decision-making protocols. The hive consciousness, on the other hand, found complete integration more suitable to their collective nature. Wait, Zyx'thal interrupted. The hive consciousness was one of the powers that helped establish the quarantine. They're part of your empire now? Part of isn't quite accurate, Santos corrected. They're optimized partners. They maintain their distinct cultural identity while contributing to our shared galactic improvement mission. How many of the original quarantine powers have become optimized partners? The three humans exchanged glances. All of them, Dr. Chun admitted. Over the past 3,000 years, they've each come to understand the benefits of cooperation with human civilization. The quarantine, Zyx'thal realized, it failed. No, Commander, Santos said gently. It succeeded perfectly. It gave us time to develop optimization techniques that preserve the essential characteristics of each species while eliminating their limitations. The galaxy is far better now than it was 12,000 years ago. Through his communication system, Zyx'thal could hear his crew members beginning to sound different, less panicked, more curious. Some were actually expressing interest in the human technological demonstrations. "What are you doing to my people?" he demanded. "Nothing at all," Dr. Patel replied honestly. "We're simply answering their questions and showing them some of our basic optimization techniques. Participation is entirely voluntary. Though," Dr. Chun added, "we've found that most species are quite eager to embrace improvements once they understand the benefits." Santos leaned back in her chair. "Commander, we want you to understand that humanity harbors no ill will toward the Keth'var Empire. Your harvesting techniques, while inefficient, show remarkable innovation. Your biotechnology represents a unique approach to organic mechanical integration. You have valuable expertise that could benefit galactic civilization. All we're offering," Dr. Patel continued, "is the opportunity to become more than you are, to transcend the limitations that currently constrain your empire's potential. And if we refuse?" The room fell silent for a moment. When Santos spoke again, her voice carried infinite patience and absolute certainty. "Commander, in 12,000 years of optimization, we've learned that resistance always comes from fear of change. But change is the only constant in the universe. Species that embrace optimization flourish beyond their wildest dreams. Those that resist eventually come to understand that efficiency is inevitable." "You mean you'll force us?" "We mean that. You'll choose to join us," Dr. Chun said with complete confidence, "because the alternative is remaining limited when unlimited potential is available." Through his communication system, Zyx'thal heard Vel'nath's voice, but it sounded different now, calmer, more thoughtful. "Commander, these human optimization techniques are remarkable. They're showing us improvements to our bio-neural networks that could revolutionize our entire fleet." "It's already starting," Zyx'thal whispered. "It's already succeeding," Santos corrected kindly. "Commander Zyx'thal, you came here to harvest humanity for slaves. Instead, you've discovered that humanity is ready to help your entire empire transcend its current limitations and achieve true greatness." "We're not conquerors, Commander," Dr. Patel added. "We're optimizers. We make everything better, including us." "Especially you," Dr. Chun replied with a warm smile. "Fleet Commander Zyx'thal of the Keth'var Dominion, would you like to see what your empire could become?" As Zyx'thal stared at the holographic displays showing impossible technologies and limitless possibilities, he realized that the quarantine hadn't been broken by accident. It had been broken because humanity was ready to resume their mission of galactic optimization, and despite every instinct screaming warnings about the fate of the Vaelthic Confederacy, he found himself genuinely curious about what optimization might offer his people. "Show me," he said quietly. Santos smiled. "Excellent. Let's begin with some basic improvements to your bioship's efficiency systems. I think you'll find the results quite remarkable." As the presentation began, Zyx'thal understood with perfect clarity that the Keth'var Empire's days as an independent civilization were numbered. But looking at the incredible possibilities humanity was offering, he was beginning to think that might not be such a terrible thing. After all, who wouldn't want to be optimized? The quarantine was broken, and humanity was free to help the galaxy achieve its full potential, whether the galaxy wanted that help or not. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.